Welcome back. Sunday, beautiful morning. Sun is out. I'm here in the grind, and we're gonna go over. Well, obviously, you could tell by my screen what a crazy, great main card it was. The UFC Fight Night in Houston. First of all, I want to mention this. UFC needs to get rid of the Apex because fights like this in the city with the crowd makes these fights so much more better all around. All right, we need to stop going to the Apex because one card we'll talk about that in the Friday Fight Night news, which I'll mention is the Joaquin Buckley versus Sean Brady. I will be breaking it down once more. The card comes in soon. I don't like that the fight is in the Apex, but we move on to the actual topic of this video. One, Deshaun Strickland. All right. For a lot of people who were not wanting him to win or had him counted out, I went 5-1 for my main card predictions. This is or I should do it this way. Yeah, this makes more sense. 5-1 in my main card. That's a pretty solid pick. Main card events, I usually just only miss one. I usually get most of them right. Prelims, we did not discuss about it. Pretty bad. However, I did want to go over from the top to the beginning, and pretty much my whole experience was this. One, Jacoby Smith. He is a problem in the welterweight division. He is a phenomenal wrestler. This guy fights brutal, extremely well in the mic, and he has a bright future. If he plays his cards right, we potentially could see him be a champion in a year or two from now. He still has a lot more battle testing to be. However, I just think he's a far and improved version of a Kamaru Usman, right? Phenomenal, great wrestler, strong as a bull, great power. I mean, literally, his opponent, Harold, unfortunately for him, right? Another undefeated prospect, but he went there and proved that there is levels to this. I mean, look at this. This ground and pound I'm talking about. It's vicious ground and pound. Literally, dude. Granted, were there those extra shots to the head? Look, I'm agree with Paul Felder in this. It is the referee's job to have you stop the fight, not the fighter. Granted, did he already feel him? You're just in that mode, in that primal state. You know, we've seen that happen again. Look what happened to Dirk Lewis to Curtis Blade, right? Herb Dean did not catch it in time, and he got that extra punch to the face. So I know Smith got a lot of hate from it, but again, it's not his fault. He's in there to hurt these people and knock them out, to make sure the judges don't screw him over. It's Houston, Texas. I don't like Texas judges, but what a phenomenal performance. Absolutely deserve that 25,000. It should be 50,000. You know, it should. Honestly, personally, it should be 100,000 for each finish because he literally performed and he got that performance of the night. So he made some bank. Next up, you know, Melquiades Costa. First of all, I got this prediction right. Kind of hurt me. That kind of went against Dan Ige. But I just knew that eventually Dan Ige was going to get knocked out. And I just think that, again, I don't know what's in the background. I don't know how the coaches are. But you got to go start training somewhere else. I hate to say this because he's in a losing streak. He's only has won one fight out of the last 4. He's fought in the top guys, but clearly he's not top 15 anymore. He's only getting older. I know he switched his name to 100 grand, but it looks like you gave the 100 grand to someone else, man. And it's either you stay in the featherweight and you have these problems where you have a broken nose. You got knocked out in the first round. He could not reach him, couldn't take him down. He was outclassed in every aspect. I think it's time to really consider it in your career if you might have to go down to 135. I hate to say this, but this is kind of one of those issues where this is all what fighters have. That's all they know. And they're put in a spot that if I continue at 45, I might get knocked out again. I'm not getting any younger. And I know cutting down to 135 is going to probably be a lot more difficult, but at least you're fighting opponents kind of near your height, your power, you know. So this is a lot to consider, but what a phenomenal finish. I mean, come on. Look at this finish here. Look at this slow back spinning heel kick. I mean, come on. Literally just go right to the face. And Dan Ige literally moved into that kick. I guess he thought it was going to be an elbow, but what a performance, man. What a performance. This fight card had it all. Next was Uros Medic. Now, I'm not going to skip over Sergey Spivak. That was a phenomenal heavyweight clash. Obviously, both of them looked tired. Obviously, there probably was something because they started only boxing. And it wasn't until the third round that Sergey really went out to grapple. I will go into that in a minute. But however, I do want to go discuss through the performance of the night first. Because Sergey in the heavyweight, I called it, right? Anything outside of the top 5, Sergey tends to keep that level of gatekeeping pretty well. I mean, he's only lost against Jailton Almeida, Tom Aspinall, Sergey, and Waldo Cortez, right? But Spivak, he's him when it comes to people outside of the top 5, right? And he lost against Derek Lewis. Obviously, Derek Lewis isn't a downtime, but during that time, he's always been a strong top 10 fighter. And if you're not around that top 6, top 5, you're not going to beat Spivak. He has that experience. He has that dog in him. You know, but moving on. Uros Medic. I got this pick wrong. And I'm going to tell you why. Jeff Neal had the tools to win this fight if he was in his prime. I did call out that the only way that Jeff Neal was going to lose was being knocked out. And obviously, my final prediction, I was going for Jeff Neal just because I'm American bias. However, Uros Medic, what a performance. What a performance. I'm talking about, like, look at this. Boom. That left hook over the temple. Shot him down. Slow, you reach. This is the only part that I do have a problem. He overextended himself, but he did close the gap quick enough to land these hooks. And right there, that left hook, right, was just straight to the money shot at the temple. And like I said, Jeff Neal, since his last performance against Carlos Prates, his chin is exposed. He's not getting any younger. He's 35. We are seeing the passing of the guard, right? This new fighter's coming in. Uros isn't that any younger. He's 31, 32. But man, dude, he just cracked top 15. He wants Leon Edwards next. This is a good fight. Leon Edwards is ranked number 8. So if he wins that one, he could get a top 5. He is literally only 2 fights away from fighting a title. We could potentially see Uros fighting the title by next year. Right now, the welterweight division, man, it's looking amazing. We need guys like Uros who puts people out. He is 100% finish rate. That's absolutely insane. And I like his speech. He's really good well on the mic. He is honest. He's like, I have some losses. Maybe it'll come out soon, but I'm going to go all out. And this is what Paramount wants. Paramount wants fighters like this that shows out there, put in a performance like he did, and just go out and make a statement. And that's what Uros Medic did. This is my one pick that did get wrong. And I knew bottom of my heart that Jeff Neal might have gone knocked out at the time. I just did not want to see it. However, truth be told, he got knocked out. And he's really got to start thinking about your career, man. Like, hey, you're not top 15 anymore. Your chin is exposed. What changes do I have, right? You can't get in those firefights anymore because now you're just getting more damage. But moving on, a phenomenal performance by Uros Medic. I think he probably got the knockout of the night. He slept Jeff Neal. Deshaun Strickland. Look at the way he put Fluffy down, man. And it was honestly the overwhelming, the intensity, but it was the body shot that caused this. Look here. Hopefully I don't get any copyrighted by doing all this stuff. But what a finish. What a guy. And this is the only problem I had was I did say this fight was going to go by a decision. I didn't think he was going to be able to put out Fluffy, but I did mention that it was going to be those body kicks, knees to the body, anything that Fluffy is being exposed, which we already seen it. The last time he got finished was by Kevin Holland. Same thing, knee to the body that caused him to get finished, right? But I mean, this is probably the best performance you've seen Sean Strickland since Izzy. Now could probably argue this is a better performance because he got the finish over a guy who was known to grapple that couldn't take Sean Strickland down. The only thing was I was very surprised that Fluffy didn't try to take him down in the first round. When you're dry stuff, obviously Sean is incredibly hard to take down and keep them down. I get that. It's not easy, right? We're just putting hypothetical situations. But I was very still astonished that he didn't try in the first minute or two when you're dry, get him tired. But again, they did cage wrestle. Sean was able to reverse in those positions and overwhelm Fluffy with those strikes. Right? I just always thought that Sean just had the better tools, better mentally war. Because, I mean, his only loss since then was against DDP. And Alex Pereira when he got knocked out. But unless you got that nuclear option or DDP who was able to literally overwhelm him with his clunkiness and unorthodox style, you're not beating Sean Strickland. Now, obviously moving forward, we are in that weird situation where Khamzat, Daniel White already has said he has to defend his belt before moving up, which is a good thing. You know, shout out to the bald man because he's putting his foot down in that situation. However, I do want to see Imanov, who earned his right to fight against Khamzat. You know, Sean Strickland already beat Imanov, but I think Sean Strickland should wait. I do genuinely think it should wait. Again, this is actually a potential to see Khamzat versus Sean Strickland at the White House, Russian versus an American. A great selling point. This could even potentially be the main card because of the hype and the trash talk that's going to happen literally. So they need to play this really well because they need to give Imanov that title opportunity. But obviously there's not a quick turnaround for it, right? Because we're already, February ends by the end of this week. So we only have March, April, and May. You don't expect these guys to fight between those times and then make a quick turnaround in June. That's just not possible. And that's the problem with the middleweight division. And that is a thing I want to talk about in a future video that'll probably be dropping this week. However, my overall, and I'm actually going to put a score on this time, I give this main card event, not the total card, because total card is probably like a 5 or 6 out of 10. The prelims really butchered it, right? There was only one finish in the entire prelims until you got to the main card. It was pretty lousy. However, the main event of the UFC Fight Night in Houston, I'm going to give it a strong 9 out of 10. 8 out of 10, maybe minimum. But, I mean, we had finishes. We had incredible performances. 3 knockouts in the first round. Jacoby Smith. The Brazilian, the Dalmatian. As well as... who am I missing? I'm literally missing here. Euros Medic, Jesus. I'm like... losing my memory here. But Uris Medic, the Dalmatian, as well Jacoby Smith. What a performance on them in the first round. And Sean Strickland just literally with the cherry on top on the third round. Phenomenal performance from the guys. Loves to see this. We're going to continue here with next weekend fight. But I appreciate that. Thank you. And like, and comment, and subscribe. Again, what a beautiful card. I loved it from beginning to end. It was very fun. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace.